Welcome to today's video about the judgment of the great whore that sat upon many waters. We're referring to Revelation 17. The story told in Revelation 17 is a story of the final conflict between a centuries-old and corrupt system which began as the British Empire, who sat upon many waters, and the rising multipolar world led by the BRICS nations. World Wars I and II both brought about the diminishment of British power and the rise of American power, both militarily and financially. The American deep state, assisted by NATO, continues in the whore's tradition of hegemony, warmongering, regime change, intimidation, assassinations, lying, cheating, and declaring themselves as the global power who makes the rules. They lawlessly operate outside the parameters of international law and are a law unto themselves. Of the great whore Nephi wrote, "And it came to pass that I looked and beheld the whore of all the earth, and she sat upon many waters, and she had dominion over all the earth, nations, kindreds, tongues, and people." The Lord gave us these words concerning the fate of the whore in section 29. "And the great and abominable church, which is the whore of all the earth, shall be cast down by devouring fire, according as it has been spoken by the mouth of Ezekiel the prophet, who spake of these things which have not come to pass, but surely must, as I live, for abominations shall not reign." Now, based on this preview, let's begin by reading the first three verses of Revelation chapter 17. "And there came one of the seven angels which had seven vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, and I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-covered beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns." In verse 3, we are told that the whore sat upon the beast that had 7 heads and 10 horns. So whatever the beast is, it has a relationship with both the 7 heads and the 10 horns. The horns are 10 nations. And in verse 9 and 10, we are told that the 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth, and there are 7 kings. So the 7 heads or mountains are 7 nations, just as the 10 horns are nations that will exist when the whore meets her demise. We continue reading verses 4 through 6. "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of the abominations of her fornications. And upon her head was the name Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration." These verses describe the character, power, vanity, values, and priorities of the whore. She has the blood of the saints on her hands, which are the martyrs of Jesus. From verses 7 and 8 we read, "And the angel said unto me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which has the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names are not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So, looking at the BRICS nations, which include Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates, which one best fits John's description of the beast? I think the answer has to be Russia. It crashed and burned when the Soviet Union fell apart and was not what it used to be, but has currently recovered its former power and glory, and so it yet is. We now go to verse 11 and read, And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7. So we ask, how is Russia of the 7? To answer that question, we first need to identify the 7 nations where the horse sits. And the answer is the G7, which includes the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, France, Italy, Germany, and Japan. But Russia is not included here, and that's because, as John says, he is the 8th. So how is Russia related to the G7? And the answer is that when you add Russia to the G7, you get the G8. Let's zoom in on this photo and see what we find. We find Mr. Putin hanging out with the G7 and a few extras. And in this slide, we confirm that Russia, when added to the G7, is in fact the 8th. So Russia is the 8th and of the 7, as John says in verse 11. The friction or animosity between the G7, who are all NATO, and Russia comes from NATO's long history of violating their agreement after the fall of the Soviet Union to not come 1 inch closer to Russia, which actions have led to the war in Ukraine. And the fact that Russia is one of the founding members of BRICS, whose rising power threatens to overtake NATO as the top dog. We go to verses 12 and 13 and read, And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. So these 10 nations, who may be members of BRICS or other like-minded nations, who resent the whore, will follow the lead of the beast or Russia and rain down fire on the whore. We read verses 16 and 17. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put it unto their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. So we see that this is according to God's will. And that's the story of the judgment of the great whore, according to the prophecy of John. Revelation chapter 18 speaks both of the aftermath of the burning of the whore and also includes some other significant insights. We see here in verse 8, it says, "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day." So this is very swiftly moving. "And she shall be utterly burned with fire." And down here in verse 10, it says, "For in 1 hour is thy judgment come." So it's very quickly, very swift. Modern technology involved here for sure. And then in verse 4, we see where the Lord speaking to the house of Israel says, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues." The most significant verse in 18 is verse 1. "And after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with his glory." Ask yourself, brothers and sisters, who is this? Who is the light of the world? This, brothers and sisters, is the second coming. But it's not Armageddon. This is when Christ will come as a thief in the night to his elect here in America. And the burning of the whore is the abomination of desolation that shall just precede his arrival. From Joseph Smith Matthew we read, "And again shall the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet be fulfilled. And immediately after the tribulation of those days shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." I think this is a perfect note on which to end this video. Please take some time to review and consider its message and share a link with others. If you have comments or questions, we would love to hear from you. Catch you in the next video.